The phrase Thunder Run carries baggage. It evokes armored columns racing through Baghdad in 2003, a doctrine born of overwhelming firepower and air supremacy. What Ukraine has done is strip that idea down to its essentials and rebuild it for a battlefield defined by drones, precision fires, electronic warfare, and constrained resources. This is not imitation. It is reinvention. Ukraine's version works not because it overwhelms, but because it disorients, compresses decision time, and forces the opponent to react faster than their command system can cope. Understanding why it works requires stepping away from headlines and looking at the mechanics beneath the spectacle. The modern Thunder Run succeeds because speed is being used as a form of deception, rather than brute force. Ukrainian forces are not charging blindly into defended territory. They are exploiting brief windows created by intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance that updates in near real time. Drones, signals intercepts, and forward observers identify seams in Russian deployments that may only exist for hours or even minutes. When movement happens, it is sudden and narrow, aimed at collapsing local coherence rather than seizing symbolic ground. The goal is not territory first, it is paralysis. What makes this tactic devastating is how it attacks command and control instead of frontline strength. Traditional doctrine teaches that if you hold the line, you hold the ground. Thunder Runs flip that logic. Ukrainian units target logistics hubs, communications nodes, artillery positions, and local headquarters just behind the line. These are the organs that keep a defensive position alive. When they are hit quickly and in succession, frontline units may still exist physically, but they lose the ability to coordinate, resupply, or receive orders. Collapse follows not from defeat in combat, but from isolation. Another critical factor is scale. These Thunder Runs are deliberately limited. They are not massed armored thrusts designed to roll onward indefinitely. They are sharp, focused operations that end once the objective is achieved. This restraint is strategic. Overextension is how Thunder Runs die. By keeping scope narrow, Ukrainian forces reduce exposure to counterattacks and long-range fires. This also complicates Russian responses. Large countermeasures take time to organize, and by the time they're ready, the run is already over. Technology matters, but not in the way many assume. This is not a story of advanced Western hardware alone. Much of the effectiveness comes from integration rather than sophistication. Commercial drones coordinate with artillery. Secure communications link small units to higher-level intelligence. Precision weapons are used selectively, not wastefully. The system works because information moves faster than bureaucracy. In contrast, Russian forces often struggle with rigid command hierarchies that slow reaction time. Thunder Runs exploit that delay ruthlessly. There is also a psychological dimension that cannot be ignored. Thunder Runs inject uncertainty deep into rear areas that were assumed safe. When logistics officers, artillery crews, and command staff realize they can be reached quickly and unexpectedly, behavior changes. Supplies are moved less efficiently. Units disperse. Defensive depth becomes thinner. Over time, this degrades combat power without the need for constant direct engagement. Critically, these operations are sustainable because they are repeatable. A single Thunder Run is disruptive. Repeated Thunder Runs become corrosive. They force the opposing force to defend everywhere at once, which is impossible with limited manpower. This creates a dilemma: concentrate forces and risk being outflanked, or spread out and risk being overwhelmed locally. Ukraine has repeatedly forced this choice, and each time the defender pays a price regardless of the decision. From a historical perspective, this tactic represents an evolution rather than a revolution. Speed and shock have always mattered in war, but they were traditionally tied to mass. What Ukraine demonstrates is that speed combined with precision and information can substitute for mass in certain conditions. This has implications far beyond the current conflict. Smaller forces facing larger ones are studying this closely, not because it guarantees victory, but because it restores agency, where asymmetry once meant inevitability. There are limits, and serious analysts should acknowledge them. Thunder Runs rely on intelligence superiority, motivated troops, and disciplined command. They are vulnerable to air power, layered defenses, and adaptive opponents. They also cannot replace sustained operations needed to hold and govern territory. Ukraine's success comes from using thunder runs as part of a broader operational design, not as a standalone solution. When misunderstood or copied without context, the tactic will fail. For historians and military thinkers, the real lesson is not about Ukraine alone, it is about how doctrines decay and regenerate under pressure. Thunder runs were once a symbol of excess, they are now a study in economy of force. They show how modern warfare rewards those who compress time, disrupt systems, and leave the battlefield before the enemy fully understands what just happened. If you want more deep, serious analysis of how old ideas resurface in new wars, subscribe to Strange History, share this with others who study conflict beyond the headlines, and keep questioning the narratives that treat war as static when it is anything but.